probably one of the most divisive cameras of the last 20 years. On the one hand, people were criticising this camera before it had even come out, and that's a particular special skill to be able to annoy people before you've even met them. On the other hand, it's loved by top YouTubers like Peter McKinnon and Matti Haapoja. So maybe you're a bit confused about this camera. You like the idea of moving into the mirrorless world, you like the idea of all those RF lenses that are available, but you're unsure about this particular camera body. So the question you have on your mind is, should I buy a Canon EOS R in 2020? Well, the answer to that question is actually rather simple. Yes, the Canon EOS R is a highly capable camera. It's very similar in many ways to the Canon 5D Mark IV, but with a few key differences. It has a 30 million megapixel sensor, it shoots 4K video, and it has the fantastic Canon dual pixel autofocus built in. But it's smaller, it's lighter, it has a better 4K codec, it has a flip screen and an EVF, and it also has C-Log built in from the start. You don't have to pay for the upgrade like you do with the 5D Mark IV. Okay, it doesn't have 2 card slots, but this is a pro body no matter what people tell you. Your ability to get great photos out of this camera is only limited to your skills as a photographer, and that goes for the same with the video specs. You only have to look at YouTube and the top creators over on there who are using this camera to be able to see that people can get killer video out of this camera too. You can adapt all your current EF lenses over to this camera, they work seamlessly, and on top of all that, the 5D Mark IV is actually more expensive than the EOS R. It's a cheaper camera. No, you do not want to go buying an EOS R in 2020. 2020 is the year that Canon is releasing the EOS R5. Now this camera is the true equivalent of the 5D Mark IV line of DSLRs, and the specs on this camera are absolutely outrageous. In-body 5-axis image stabilization, 8K RAW video with 120 frames per second 4K 10-bit video, 12 frames a second in still mode with up to 20 frames a second in still mode with the electronic shutter. This is the camera that Canon should have started their mirrorless revolution with. This is the camera that is turning the heads of other camera brand owners like Sony and Nikon. Everybody's thinking that this is going to be the camera that gets people into mirrorless photography, and it's set a high bar. Those specs are, as I said before, outrageous. Yes, that's all very well and good, but you should still think about picking up the Canon EOS R in 2020. Let's say the R5 lives up to all expectations. Those specs are going to come with a hefty price tag. This is a camera that outperforms the 1DX Mark III. That's the flagship camera in the Canon range. I can't imagine that Canon are planning on massively undercutting their own flagship camera with the R5. That means it's going to be expensive. The 1D Mark III is a $6,000 camera. For the features you get, the EOS R is massively undervalued. In the UK at the moment, the EOS R is over 800 quid cheaper than the 5D Mark IV, and yet it's a newer camera with arguably better features. That's not to be sniffed at. No, hold up. If your argument is that the EOS R is cheaper than the R5, then you need to also consider that this is the year that Canon is releasing the R6. This is the more budget version to the R5, and it's got better specs than the EOS R. It can shoot 12 frames a second like the R5, and 20 frames a second with the electronic shutter, just like the R5 again. It can do 4K video up to 60 frames a second. It can do full HD at 120 frames a second, and if the rumours are true, it has the dual card slots that everybody loves. This camera will be better than the EOS R, and it will be cheaper than the R5. So if budget is your main concern, then this is the camera that you want to consider. Yes, you should still consider the EOS R, because all that stuff's just on paper. We don't know the true specs of these cameras yet. The EOS R5 and the EOS R6 haven't been released yet. Nobody's had hands-on with them, we don't have any reviews, so nobody's entirely sure what we're going to get with those cameras. We don't even know the megapixel of those cameras. And of course, this is Canon we're talking about. Many of those killer specs may come with massive caveats. We've got cropped 4K, or those high frame rates only in burst modes, or terrible rolling shutter. All of this is just speculation and coming from the rumour sites. Canon have released a few specs, but not all of them. So How can you make a decision on a camera that you haven't even held? How can you make a decision on a camera that nobody's even held? How can you make a decision on a camera that we just don't know about? That's why you might want to consider the EOS R. You know exactly what you're getting with that camera. It's been out for over 18 months, it's been reviewed by many people, and you can see the work of professionals using that camera. So what you see is what you get. No. If you're a professional, then you need 2 card slots, and the EOS R just does not cut it. It's not a professional camera by any standard. Yes, you should still consider it because there's more to life than 2 card slots. Not everybody's a pro. For hobbyists and for pros who don't need a constant backup, then you can really consider this camera. If you're a wedding photographer, I get it, you might need a copy of everything. I'd want 2 copies of everything. You don't want to leave that to chance. But if you're a landscape photographer, can you afford to take that risk? I think you can if you're just getting started and looking at a budget full-frame camera. No, everyone would benefit from 2 card slots. You don't want to get home and find that all that hard work's gone to waste because your cards got corrupted. And these things do happen. I have a card that got corrupted just the other day. So 2 card slots makes better sense. Yes, the R5 card slots aren't even the same type of card slots. One's an SD and one's a CF Express, and those things are super expensive. The starting price for them is about £200, and they go up to 500, 600, even over £1,000, and that's for a memory card? No, you get what you pay for. Stop complaining. You have to put the money in if you want to get the best gear. Yes, you should still consider it. A fool and their money are easily parted. You don't always get what you pay for. It can seem like there's a million things to consider when you're buying a new camera. Nobody wants to get buyer's remorse after all. But my advice when buying a new camera, and this goes for any new camera, the EOS R included, is you want to make a list of all the features that you need. Not the features that you'd like, or the features that your friends need, or even the features that Tony Northorpe or Frono Photo thinks that you actually need, but the features that you need, the ones that are deal breakers to you and you only. Then you want to find the cheapest camera that fulfills as many of those features as possible, and that's the camera you want to go for. For some people that might be the EOS R, and for other people that might be a 5D Mark II from years ago. And then once you've spent your money on that camera, that's it. Don't look at any more review sites or rumor sites or any of that type of stuff. Just enjoy that camera that you've bought and learn to get as good as possible with that camera. People have been taking great photos for hundreds of years, and they will continue to take great photos for hundreds of years. The problem with waiting for future cameras is that there'll always be a better camera just over the horizon. That's what camera companies do. They bring out better cameras than the last camera. And that might not be the same camera manufacturer as the one you're currently with. It might be Sony or Nikon or whoever. And then everybody gets into this big craze about, I'm selling all my gear and I'm switching over. But guess what? Another camera comes along that they all want to switch and go over to again. Now this is more easily said than done, and I don't always stick to this. I get into that mindset of thinking, oh, I want the latest and the greatest, I don't want to miss out on this feature or that feature. But at the end of the day, do I use all the features in any camera? Not really. There's many features in many cameras that I've never even looked at. There's a few core features that are important to me, and they're going to be different to me than they are to you. As for the EOS R, I think it's still a viable option in 2020 when you take into consideration the price and the image quality and the video features in there. Then yeah, why wouldn't you want to buy one? Or maybe go for RP or even an A7. That's an old camera, but it's still a good one. It all depends on what features are core to you and your photography. For me, I think that the EOS R would make a great backup camera to the R5 for any professional, and that's what I would intend to do if the price of that R5 is something near reasonable. If it's £6 grand, forget about it. Right, that's the end of the video. You go away now.